Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. One of our final episodes of 2023, gearing up for our final episodes of the year. But first, we're going to do one more review for you, maybe another one next week. We'll see, probably. Anyway, we are talking about a couple months of the year. Um, and now that Ben's actually seen the movie, Ben, what do you think of May, December?
Mm,
I I thought it was great.
mm.
I really enjoyed it. Uh, Trying to think of where to even start for this movie.
Yeah,
It's
this
an
one's a
odd,
complex one. I mean,
yeah, it's
like,
not straightforward.
or like complex in the sense that the subject matter is extremely like disturbing, but in a way that draws you in. At least for me. I mean, I think
But
for everyone.
it's yeah, I mean the subject matter is like not complex, but the way that everyone talks and the way that they present it is complex.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a movie. I mean, the principal thing is like named after this
I think a
relationship
May
in
December
the 80s.
romance does refer to like a young guy and an
Oh
older
yeah, well there's
woman.
the May
Exactly.
December. Yeah, that's a like a large gap in age, but the inspiration I should say for the characters is from some 80s story that was highly publicized.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but it really doesn't like that's the underlying theme, but it doesn't really deal with that for about 90% of the movie. Instead, it chooses to like dramatize the most regular things. Like we were talking before we started recording about the hot dogs. I don't think we have enough hot dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just speaking from someone who has been a filmmaker with hot dogs as a key part of one scene,
Mm.
um, don't work with food. If you're going to make movies, well, first of all, you have to make sure that your talent, your actors are up for the task if you're going to have them eating any of the food, because you will end up in a position on a student film set, as I did, where one of your actors is taking one bite of about 25 hot dogs in one day.
Yeah.
And she was game. She was all for it. It became sort of a running joke on set, but hot dogs, they're make sure that
You just
make sure
have to
that your
tell.
actors are ready to go with hot dogs.
Yeah.
How
Uh,
much of the budget went to hot dogs, would you guess, you know?
Putt putt, we probably spent probably close to $50 on hot dogs
Wow. Wow.
because
so
they came with they were like already made in the buns,
Okay, okay.
wrapped in foil. We got them from there happened to be a uh, a place nearby that sold hot dogs as like
Mm.
part of their menu. So we got them right
so
near set, and then actually my producer had to make a couple of trips because we needed to do more takes so I could get more angles. But
There were more than one
when
times
you
when
guys
you made the
finally see it in a
mistake.
couple weeks, when you guys finally see it in a couple weeks, it's gonna be really fun.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, they didn't have enough hot dogs in May, December.
Mhm. Mhm. That's like just like on
quick,
set when you guys ran out and your producer had to get more.
Yeah, except we actually went and got
a
more,
quick
and
story
they
on
kind of
that.
moved on in the movie.
True.
Um, so I had a friend who actually was an extra in a scene down like New Orleans with John Goodman. I forget what movie it was, but so he was
Flintstones,
there and he was supposed to. I don't think that was it. Um,
and it's
but
got to be
yeah, he
Flintstones
had to
2,
smoke.
Viva Rock Vegas.
Yeah, oh, that's it. That's it. It wasn't even in that one.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, he was smoking a cigarette in the scene, and they offered him like herbal cigarettes or whatever. And he was a smoker, and so he said, "Oh no, that's fine. I'll just smoke a cigarette." But of course, they had to do the takes like a thousand times or whatever, and they had to like get it down and burn down to the right, amount.
Mhm.
So he was there like literally Matthew McConaughey, the cigarettes, and I guess he became sick after that day.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I
definitely
worked
be
on another
careful
set.
with anything.
I worked
Mm,
on another set where we had a like a fake herb joint,
mm.
and we had to do it like it was probably like 2 hours of takes, and we went through a couple dozen It was
I,
it was
I'm
disgusting.
realizing.
Just the smell of it. I didn't smoke any of them, but just the smell of these burning herbs in rolling
Yeah.
paper. That's just
Mm,
it was terrible. We were indoors.
oof.
It's probably a fire
I'm
hazard, but
I'm realizing now that Todd Haynes is actually a genius because I'm remembering in one of the dinner scenes that they have the first one, like the camera is set up in a way so that the plates are entirely blocked by the chairs, and I'm wondering if Todd Haynes in like the most like 4D chess move intentionally blocked them specifically so that they could do more takes easily.
let me talk to you for a minute about Todd Haynes because this is the second collaboration between Haynes and Julianne Moore that I've seen. The
Mm.
first one was Far From Heaven, 2002. I don't know if you guys have seen that,
So
which
they've
was
done a
actually a remake of a movie from the 50s called All That Heaven Allows,
Mm.
which I've also seen. I watched them both for school. I was in film school, if you guys didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Um, and what was so like my professors encouraged us to take away from uh, Far From Heaven was what Haynes does with color and lighting and sort of focusing on what sort of tone is set by the use of color and lighting in the film and what that sort of can portray about the characters. And what we get in May December is a little bit more subtle. Obviously, at the barbecue in the beginning of the movie, somehow they're all wearing red, white, and blue, even though it's not July 4th. But we end up with like Julianne Moore is in all light colors at the beginning of the movie, and Natalie Portman is in darker colors, and you can sort of get the sense that that might be sort of some sort of visualization for motive for characterization, where we see that you know maybe not everything is what it seems with Natalie Portman's character, and Julianne Moore is supposed to be the idea of innocence, and then we learn more about her character and her relationship with her husband, and you can sort of see even in the wardrobe that sort of change where Natalie Portman is getting in a little bit more brighter costumes. We're learning more about sort of not purity from her, but something a little bit more not innocent either, but she's as much of a protagonist here as we have in the movie. And Julianne Moore starts to wear darker colors, and we learn more about her troubled past with, the affair and the jail time and her strained relationships with both of her families at this point. So I think what Haynes does and what he carries over from, a film that he did 20 years ago is really, really strong, sort of subtle character work through something as simple as wardrobe.
Mm.
And it works
Mm.
really, really well for this piece. What doesn't work
yeah, I
really
think
well for this piece to me, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say he does a lot. And that and not just that, but the background and even the writing, everything is underneath something.
Mm.
Everything hiding underneath a guise. And even like they've got a nice house, like it's really pretty out there, but the movie absolutely ignores every type of background because everyone knows focuses on the women. Um, and that kind of leaves even Joe out to some extent. Like when he's in a scene with them, he absolutely is not really there.
Mm.
Both Natalie Portman's Elizabeth and Gracie, they just take up the entire scene themselves, which is
Mm.
kind of par for the rest of the plot and their rest of their character development. So I think he does a great job with using everything that a film is, the full medium to convey character development when really he's giving us very little on the surface, what they're saying and everything. They don't really um, give out a lot. It's sort of throughout the film that it comes out in different scenes, but it's much more passive.
Mm.
Max, what do you think?
Sorry.
What?
Uh, what? Oh, I mean, I liked it. I thought, George, you were going to finish your thought on something
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
No, I'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally thought that the performances were fantastic.
Mhm.
Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore obviously were the two big names in the film, but Joe, I'm forgetting the
Charles
actor.
Melton.
Melton.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty stunning too. I mean, it was a subtle performance.
Mhm.
He had to play those vulnerabilities of a young man who's growing into adulthood who never really got the chance to experience his childhood because it was taken away from him
Mhm.
um, by Julianne Moore, by Gracie. Um, and I think he nails it
Mhm.
for the most part. It felt it, icky is a word I think I used before I saw the film with
Mhm.
George. Uh, but obviously, once you see this, you'll realize that that's kind of how it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
That's what the vibe of the film is supposed to be.
Mhm.
Um, you're not supposed to feel comfortable in it.
There's a lot going under the surface with his performance, which I think intentionally so is like in some ways overshadowed by what Portman and Moore are doing, But and so it's like it's in some ways like how a situation like this could develop. I feel, and I think I agree. I think Melton did a great job as well.
Declan, I got a question for you
Yeah.
about Charles Melton because in
Mhm.
your
Yeah.
rewatch of the movie, you've seen it twice now.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned in your Letterboxd review Charles Melton deserves the Oscar this year, and he would probably go for supporting actor.
Mhm.
It's not a lead performance,
Mhm.
but
The
I'm curious, what about his performance makes you say that?
the full I really I think full Oscar I will admit that's probably like far. I think a nomination. I should change it to at least deserves an Oscar nomination. With that said, I honestly felt like the the scene that sort of clinched it was like the scene where he tries to confront uh Gracie like with how like how deeply uncomfortable it is and how like raw it feels and like you more and like fully showing the extent of his like the manipulation that's been thrown at him for most of his life kind of I felt like it was an extremely powerful like scene and like from there it's like the entire rest of his performance again it's subtle but I think it's again just quietly powerful for telling this story and like like the revelation of what is actually going on in the relationship between Gracie and Joe and how disturbing it really is. I think I thought it was like a powerful thing, and extremely well done by both Melton and Moore, of course, Moore is
I
also
think that
fantastic.
scene in the scene on the
The
rooftop.
rooftop with his son.
That one was also like
Yeah, I think he should definitely get a nomination. It's hard. Like a lot of people think it's really easy to, act simply. I
mm,
guess, like
This is
not
not an
not
easy character.
not being the star, not being the most, emotional, exaggerated, sort of person in the scene. You kind
mm,
of fade in the background, but sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. And he
mm,
does. Like that's on purpose. He fades in the background in a lot of these scenes, but he's doing a great job. Um, Basically playing off of these two like very powerful women in this movie. So
mm,
yeah, I think he does a great job. I agree, Declan.
mm. Yeah. And
So
like
go ahead.
no, and I was just saying, and the also the manipulation that Natalie Portman does towards him as well. I feel like it became more apparent in the rewatch, like just how much she was doing to him what undoubtedly Gracie did to him as well. But like again,
But but when
it was
Elizabeth
another
does it,
thing that's
it's legal,
mm,
you know.
Well, like, yeah, there's the legality, but I think the movie's definitely trying to play much less on the legality because she was punished, right? You know, she'd go to jail.
Oh yeah,
I
you're
think it's
you're right.
much more on the power dynamics. And I find it very interesting because they are very similar. They both exploit she's exploiting like lots of people. She's exploiting Gracie too to an extent.
Mhm.
Well,
But
that's
well, just she's very like outspoken or she basically tells Joe after they have sex and you know she's like, oh yeah, this is a great story. It's
Yeah.
like story, and it's like this is just what grown-ups do. She's very much like
Mhm.
outspoken
also
about how this is who she is, whereas Julianne Moore is like, who is in control? You know, this graduation. It's so defensive, so like you know, deflective, very similar people in some ways, and very different in others.
Mhm.
yeah. I think Ben, you brought up the scene where right after Elizabeth and Joe have sex, we sort of get a look under the hood at Elizabeth's motivations for, she's not really deliberately driving this relationship apart,
Mhm.
but sort of again under the surface, that's what her character wants. She wants something with Joe clearly outside of the
Mhm.
context of I'm doing this for a movie role,
Mhm.
but her entire motivation throughout the film, beginning to end, is trying to elicit from herself the most realistic experience for portraying this role in a movie. And
Yeah.
part of that, we see it, when she goes back into the back of the pet shop, is she's trying to live Gracie's experiences.
Mhm.
Takes
She
method acting to a whole other level.
Like I would even argue that she's doing basically everything for the role. Like that's what I
well,
was
yeah, she hooks
thinking.
up
It's
with
like
Joe for the reason of understanding what it's like to hook up with Joe.
yes, yes, exactly. Which is like,
That-
oh my God, you
There's
know.
also the scene where she goes to drama class or whatever, and it's like, am I pretending to not like this, or am I pretending to like this?
Mhm.
No, it's it becomes kind of clear that she really enjoys this sort of thing. Because
Mhm.
again, when we find out at the end of the movie, essentially, there's like hints to it throughout the movie. This is a made-for-TV movie. This is not high-level acting, and even they make references to her career, which is basically like she is bottom of the barrel, like entertainment.
I would
She's
go
doing all
that
this
far.
work. Well, I
But
mean,
what's so
she's
great
in very trashy things, is what I'm
Mm.
saying.
Yeah.
what's so great about that being the case for what Elizabeth's role in the world is and what her role in the entertainment industry is that Todd Haynes takes that and he shoots May December like a goddamn soap opera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
you hear the score swells and the sort of slow push in on a character when they're in a moment of emotional distress. And it's like, oh, I feel like someone just revealed someone else is having an affair, or
Mm.
someone just revealed that they're a long lost cousin, or someone killed somebody and we're finding out about it, but the hero doesn't know yet. And it's
Mhm.
like, I don't watch soap operas. I don't enjoy soap operas. And yet, to make this film in that style, to tell this story using that technique, it works. And earlier, when
Mhm.
I said something that doesn't work for me, I was going to talk about how it's made like a soap opera, but sort
Mhm.
of digging deeper into what it means for the film and for the execution of the story, I'm kind of realizing it does work. I'm not
Mhm.
saying every
very
movie should be shot like a soap opera, but
Mhm.
there are some like this that kind of deserve it,
Yeah.
kind of earn that
this,
stylistic filmmaking.
Mhm.
I mean, if you think about it, there's like all the elements to a soap opera, given the story, given the affairs and everything, and yet it really doesn't focus on them. It's almost ironic, even with the music swells and everything. Someone could say the stupidest thing like, I don't think we got enough hot dogs," and it'll be like, "Oh, da, 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 da."
The score was
I
really, really well composed,
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
even though it,
great.
it became overbearing at several moments. it was nice. The music was nice.
Which is
I
possibly
think
intentional.
I think all of that is intentional.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like I think in some ways I feel like it's kind of it's a brilliant like depiction, like in indictment, like depiction of how how media portrayal can like affect how you see things. Like, again, it starts off with this like soap opera surface, and you see that at the beginning and like the ridiculousness. And like I said, it's like I feel like what this film does so well, why I liked it is again that like sort of the slow indictment it places on all of us by revealing how disturbing the situation we're
Yeah.
learning about is. Like we hear about the salaciousness at the beginning and we're like, oh, but then it's like we learn, it's like, oh my gosh, this is essentially the story of a guy who was probably more assaulted, more accurately described as assaulted than fell in love with another person, and has then lived with the person who assaulted him for over a decade and had
yeah,
children with. And
20 years.
she seems so nice, but like there's like little moments even in the beginning where she treats him like a child. I mean, like
yeah.
really a child because he's having beer, but she's like, "Hey, honey, that's the second one. You got to be careful." And she's like, "Can you set the table? Can you get this?"
So,
Yeah.
quick question for you guys in terms of the stylistic filmmaking. I had thoughts throughout my viewing experience, and I don't know what my answer to this is, but Haynes chose to shoot this like a soap opera because the story is so similar to that. Do you guys think that this could have worked in a mockumentary style?
No,
Ooh.
I think the mockumentary would kill the drama aspect.
Mhm.
Mockumentaries are great as satire, but they don't really have a lot of drama aspect. They're too
Mm.
comedic of an art form.
I think there's a way you could do it
There's a
as a
way for it to work,
mockumentary,
right?
but
I
it's
mean,
like it's
you could do it, but I'm just saying it would kill like the
It
dramatic
would lose
tension
something.
of
You're
it.
right.
I mean,
yeah,
you'd lose the whole aspect of Joe feeling and sort of presenting as a victim of grooming, right?
Mhm.
And
Like
you really
that's
don't want to like, trivialize that. Like
Mhm.
the movie works because these people are kind of trying to trivialize it.
Mhm.
I think the
Right.
soap opera really works with the background of Natalie Portman's character making a made-for-TV movie that is essentially going to be in the style of a soap opera, and
And
it
it's
focuses
the exact
really,
same as the original made for TV movie they show in there.
yeah, it's works pivotally because um they don't focus on that period. Like this is modern day. The
Mm.
movie basically
Well,
focuses on
2015.
adult. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all these made for TV movies and like salacious, soap opera, they're focusing on that time. And they sort of mention it like in one scene where she's looking at auditions for, who's going to be the 13-year-old kid or whatever. She's like, this kid's not sexy enough. They're cute, but they're not really sexy. You get the
Well,
idea. It's like this is a very predatory thing that they're doing. She's doing something predatory, but even the movie industry is doing something incredibly predatory.
at the end of the movie, when they show the work that they're doing on set to actually shoot this really, really low budget made for TV movie, where she's got, the makeup and the wig and
Mm.
the shitty set and the costumes and all that, you almost wonder, and that scene with where she's reviewing the auditions sort of sets this up as to how she'll behave in the moment on set. We almost wonder if the end of the film sets Elizabeth on sort of Gracie's path with that last line, it's starting to feel real.
I
Mm.
think it's less
Oh God, whoa.
less on like her specific path, but there is like an idea there. But I think it goes back to the original thing she said in drama class, where it's like, I don't know whether I'm pretending not to like this or pretending to like this. But yeah, her last phrase was, "Can we do one more for me?"
Mm. Mm.
Well, I mean, that's something that actors say on set all the time. If
Yeah.
they feel they didn't nail a
100%, yeah.
take,
Yeah, but it is
let me
very
do one more
much,
for me.
It's like
it's very stylized.
You know, the delivery is what makes it. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
also
think
with the background of everything saying like, am I not liking this? And her sleeping with Joe, her getting closer and closer to that character, then maybe she does find something about that, like, appealing in some
Mhm.
sick way. She's
And then the movie
not
just
right.
ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
We're
almost
done.
felt like the film was trying to undercut any like it was like the final like perfect parody of like in some ways itself, but like any like film depicting like true crime or something like that. Like it's almost saying like this is not an this film is not a serious like it's not like oh the art is what caused Joe to realize his situation. It's like no, the art from about this true crime is like just another salacious depiction of this event that happened. It's not like a new revolutionary high concept film that makes you think more about it. Like it's yeah, again, it's like making fun of itself and true crime as a genre almost, I felt in a
But at the
way.
same time, it doesn't feel like a satire. It doesn't feel like it's poking fun at itself
Nah,
to a gratuitous extent. It's,
mm,
like we've been talking about the entire evening, it's subtle.
yeah.
We're not hit over the head with, this is a messed up made for TV sort of storyline. It's told in sort of not quite an undercut way, but something that appears very much a surface level story has those layers to it where we're seeing every sort of detail reveal itself along the way.
Yeah, I think it very much mocks the sensationalist media around stories like this, but
Mhm.
Was
absolutely
that
not.
about the media, Ben? You taking shots at the media? I am the media.
Well, tell them to stop, doing these
Oh
stories.
no, I only
Yeah.
work for local news. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, like we keep going back to the hot dog line, or there's lots of lines throughout where they say things that are just ridiculous.
Mm,
Uh, but they're very exaggerated, and they take other lines or discussions very not seriously. They're like, oh yeah, we're just in love. It was true love, whatever. Um, it's pretty much the reverse of how you would do a sensationalist like take or something like made for TV.
mm.
So it's what does Ryan Johnson call it? Subverting your expectations.
That
He is a
line
master of
existed
that.
prior to Ryan Johnson. I hate that.
I know, but everyone always made fun of him for that.
Ben, we're gonna force you to be mute the entire time we finally get to Last Jedi.
Jesus Christ.
You have to listen
Not,
to all of
it's
us
the
praise the
best.
film. No,
Look, I'm gonna give him it's the best film in the sequel trilogy. But
Yeah, that's
I just
true.
hate the
I would
sequel
agree with that.
trilogy as like a thing. It
Mm.
just they should have like they say in that movie, they should have let the past die. Like just make a new fucking series. And look where they're at.
Go in if you're making a if you just I'm gonna go off for a second here. If you're making a sequel trilogy, all we at quite literally the only thing we ask for is go in with a plan,
Mm.
and they didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. That's true. To to bring it back to May December because we could obviously go for
Yes.
like 6 hours
Subverting expectations.
on
Yeah.
Star Wars. There's two things I want to ask like both like everyone here like what they thought of. Like first thing, the second to last scene where like Gracie is like I'm very secure. I honestly thought that scene like was in Gracie's head, like it didn't actually happen, given how like Natalie Portman is wearing the movie star glasses that she talked about at the beginning, and like like Gracie suddenly like is claiming to, you know, speak with her son in from her first marriage like all the time. I thought that that didn't actually happen, but I wanted to hear if you guys agree with me or disagree with me. And the other thing, a subtler thing, there's a scene where Gracie is like hunting and she comes across like some sort of like, I think like a like a what was
It's
it?
Fox.
Yeah,
Fox.
yeah, Fox or something. And like I even on second watch, I was like, I don't fully know what this scene is about. So I want to ask you guys about what do you think about both those?
Ben, I'm
Yeah.
gonna fight you to go first here.
Okay, you go first.
The fox represents innocence. It's a sweet little creature in the forest, and it's Gracie's decision whether or not to take something's innocence by killing it or wounding it.
Oh.
Yeah, I
And
think the hunting aspect to her character is kind of like she's a pedophile, you know?
she's a.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not gonna
Wait,
say it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna say it. Never mind.
Mm,
But then
that's a
just
very
about
good point.
to your other question, Declan.
Mm,
Um, I I disagree that
mm,
it takes place in Gracie's head simply because one, we're given no indication to show that it is, which is a very surface level answer. I'm sorry that
mm.
that's that's the short answer, but something more in depth. I guess I would say that you know what what does Gracie do in that moment that wouldn't happen in real life? There's no real other than choosing not to shoot the fox literally 3 minutes beforehand. She doesn't show the necessary sort of character growth to truly believe anything other than, what she's presented the entire film, which is that she's, morally in the right with what she's done and how she's acted her whole life. So I don't think that she would imagine, I don't think that they would show us Gracie imagining a situation in which she would make herself look better in that
Mm,
moment. I think what we've seen from Gracie's character throughout the entire movie is that in her interactions with other characters, she would make herself look better because that's who she is.
mm, mm,
Yeah, I don't think it would probably take place in her head, just also because it would be kind of off for a movie like this that's already so almost surreal
mm,
to actually do the
Pretty damn
dream.
surreal.
mm,
So I think everything works within the actual reality of this film. But that's just who she is. She's been delusional, and she doesn't change. Elizabeth doesn't change. They're the same people that they always were, even if we learn more about them. The only person that's changed a little bit is Joe, kind
mm.
of figuring out like, oh, this is kind of messed up situation I'm in.
Maybe I should leave like
And
the
you get
motherfucker.
the sense maybe something hopeful. The butterfly comes out, but
I liked
it doesn't
how into the butterfly
doesn't
scene.
leave anything. Like everything could just continue. Like they have the message or the motif throughout the film about machinery and just getting used to everything. So maybe with the kids away, Joe will learn to be his own person,
Mm-hmm.
because it said all he's ever done is taking care of his siblings when his father was out, and then his kids
Mm-hmm.
when that were born when like 15 or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
15, whatever it was. So yeah, I think that's just who she is. I think what you see in the film is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
like, but true, if you get what I
Surface
mean.
level characters with depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think in some ways, like what didn't make sense to me, which is why I I was saying like, oh, maybe this is in her head, is like the idea. I was like, does she talk to Georgie all the time and like implant the idea of like her being assaulted in her childhood? Like I
In
was
my
almost
opinion,
like,
I think that's Georgie's like attempt to reconcile why,
mm,
why his mother would literally do this and destroy his life,
mm. That is true.
justification. Everyone's still searching for justifications in this film, right? So maybe that's it.
Yeah, because like, yeah, try to, yeah,
Because
it
that would
was
be a
fascinating how her former husband, like Tom, like when they run into each other at the restaurant, like he doesn't actually acknowledge Joe at all, and like Joe awkwardly goes like Tom, and so it's like again, like in terms of like lives possibly being destroyed, it's like was like that was just such a
That
strange
felt
moment.
that felt really real, you know. How
Yeah.
if you were Tom or if you were Joe, how would you react to seeing the other guy? That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
exactly how you'd react.
Yeah,
It's
it's like I
cordial, but it's
again
cold.
it was a moment that I didn't like it stuck with me again like it was like just realizing like how much history is conveyed in that small interaction between
And
these.
arguably, this is a more real. There's many more real interactions in this than there would be in a lot of sensationalized like accounts of something like this. Which is that most people, if they see someone, they're not going to like rage at them and go. There are certainly some people that will beat you up or shoot you or whatever. Most
Mhm.
people would just quiet, like defeated look, say hi. Maybe you don't say hi, but lots of people in this film just want to go on with their lives. They don't want to accept what has happened, what they've done, what has been done to them. And Tom definitely follows that. He seems very much like okay to talk about it and very much like defeated about the whole thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's that's the bottom line for where he's at
Yeah.
throughout his sort of
Yeah, that would,
limited
I mean,
appearance
that
in the
would suck,
film.
man. That would really suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the last thing I want to talk about with you guys tonight is that 3-minute monologue towards the end of the film based on the letter.
Mhm.
Natalie Portman speaking directly to camera from the perspective of Gracie as a character, not as a person, sort of dramatizing what was already a dramatic letter. What do we get from Elizabeth as a character, sort of in the way that she interprets Gracie's words, and then sort of portrays them as an acting exercise?
I don't know, she's kind of pathetic. She's kind
Yeah.
of a pathetic character. Like
Yeah.
using
The way
all of
she
that clout from her like body wash commercials
realized.
to go method act in this small town and then go hook up with the subject of or the victim and survivor of a
That's,
sexual violence. Like,
yeah. It,
are you
it,
kidding me? You're
yeah.
horrible and go away. Like,
Yeah. Like,
disgusting. Get out.
like it's her getting it's like her finally just like by that point she had everything she needed because she now had like the key to the character, and that's literally all she was looking for, was purely to portray this character in this in the like in this random TV movie.
But it follows the theme of what you said to Joe, which is like, stories like these where he gets so upset. It was like this isn't a story, this is my life. And
Yeah.
it seems like throughout the film, it becomes more and more apparent that Elizabeth treats this as like not a real thing. She's so curious about everything. And she's kind of in
She,
some ways she's doing the acting role and she's very predatory, but it's the way that a journalist or somebody that would put on the story would treat somebody. And you get little bits of information where people had there was the bugs that were sent to their door. Obviously people had used them for all their stories, and definitely people had sent them death threats, hate, whatever. It kind of fits that theme, where she just does not care about them at all. And even Joe, like, she has sex with them and she's just like, yeah, it's just what grown-ups do. We're just sociopaths. uh,
Elizabeth almost treats and we talked about how Haynes shot it. We've talked about, what the, you know, movie that's the subject of this movie ends up looking like. But Elizabeth treats the story of Gracie and Joe and their family and their, their shared history together. She almost treats it like a soap opera that she's sort of getting to be a part of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's involving herself in this, made for TV drama.
She's
Yeah, I
at
feel-
the dinner, like, celebrating the graduation, which is like
It's a
the
family event.
older.
Why is she there?
Yeah,
It's like a
also
roller coaster, though, right? It's like,
it's
oh
like-
my God, what happens next?
Yeah.
And yeah, that reading the letter is very interesting because one, yeah, it is sort of an acting exercise for her, to try and get into character. But two, that's like the most raw scene in the movie where she
Very.
speaks directly to the camera.
That
Mhm.
and the
They
moment in
aren't
the
even, they aren't her words.
Yeah.
It's the fakest scene too.
that's sort of the emotional crux for Elizabeth, but there's also the scene in the bathroom where Gracie is applying the makeup to Elizabeth's face
Mhm.
that is so raw and emotionally charged, but still so subtle where like you can feel the tension in every movement, in every word. And I mean, Portman and Moore can act, man. They act the hell out of this movie. Props to them. I mean, it's a tough subject matter, and they do a really, really good job with it.
I don't know. I think everyone was luckily on the right, like, on the same wavelength for addressing such a disturbing subject matter like this. I think everyone knew what movie they were doing and like worked towards that. I think that's impressive.
But yeah, I think there's just so many themes of exploitation. And I want to point out what just before I forget, when she has was it lunch or breakfast with the defense lawyer
Mm.
for Gracie, I think that's one of the most interesting scenes in that it sort of shows all the victims and on the surface it seems fine, but he sort of shows her all the casualties of her choices. But more than that, he points out again the sensationalism in media where he had represented murderers, rapists, the worst, but they were much more interested in this salacious affair.
Mm.
And probably it was equally, I don't want to say equally predatory, it's predatory as well, right? It is an exploitative sort of thing when you could be showing somebody that's actually evil, sort of making her the face of evil in America,
Mm.
when the same defense lawyer was defending all these other people that had literally killed people, and
Yeah.
nobody was interested in them. It's the I don't know the words, the ridiculousness, the insanity of the affair, the curiosity that people have towards those sorts of things, not morbid curiosity, but interest in people's relationships and
It's
what goes wrong in their
intriguing,
heads.
that kind of story piques the public interest.
Yeah,
Like a
very
car
much.
crash, you can't look away.
You don't want to hear about somebody killing a kid, but a teacher having sex with a kid and then having a baby, that's great for sensationalist news, you know. But they'll
Yeah.
portray them, as like I don't want to like acknowledge that's not good, right? But they will probably be much more cruel than a murderer, where they would probably just report, hey, this person killed this person. It's like, all right, well, that's the end. Like, that's terrible, but that's one sentence.
So, May December is currently playing on Netflix. Currently streaming.
Currently,
Whatever.
depends.
You can watch it on Netflix, and I'm sure it's still in some theaters at a limited capacity somewhere. Maybe. I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't know if theaters are like
I
all over
know
the
that
country.
I feel like once it goes on Netflix, they just sort of cut it in most
Ben's
theaters.
right. It's just on Netflix. Check it out. Let us know your thoughts. We're back with our final review of the year next week. another Netflix movie. We're talking about Maestro. Should be
For a role.
very, very well-made movie with Bradley Cooper, directed, starring Carey Mulligan. I'm looking forward to it. I know the rest of the guys are.
Mm.
And then second episode next week, top fives of the year.
Mm.
2023 is almost over. We're getting ready for
Gran
2024.
Turismo, Five Nights at Freddy's. And trying to figure out my number one.
Aquaman
there.
Ben's
2.
giving us a little preview right now. We won't
Aquaman
spoil it for
2.
you.
Aquaman 2 probably isn't making it. I'll be honest.
Just
Not
as long as
even that.
Wonka's in Ben's top five, I'm okay with it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Ben doesn't seem like he wants to do top 5 because he can't put Dune Part 2 in there.
It's
Kind of hurting me.
I was
Refusing
literally
under
about to say
protest.
Dune Part 2. Oh, wait.
Rebel Moon Part 1.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. We will see you twice next week, Maestro and top fives. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.